This project proposal writing, it's just a blueprint. Like whenever we have to construct some house, so before constructing that house, the blueprint of the entire house needs to be prepared. And it is said that more detailed is the blueprint, more articulated and well thought of blueprint of a house, then that will be reflected in the quality of that house. Similarly, project proposal is also a blueprint of your proposed research work or proposed project work. So there are certain things which needs proper attention. Ultimately, you all are research scholars, or might be some of you are faculty members, and you are very much well versed with the idea of project proposal, how to write proposal. But since this is a workshop and I have been interested with the job of discussing my views on project proposal writing, so I will be just sharing a few aspects and few ideas of mine regarding this project proposal writing. So we'll start with the very basics. First thing is, what is a research proposal? So when someone of you have approached to some of the universities for getting your PhD degree, for enrolling yourself into the PhD degree, then you must have been asked by your prospective supervisor or from the head of the department that write a research proposal, what you want to prepare. So your guide, your supervisor must have asked you that submit a research proposal. And when your guide is uttering the word submit a research proposal, what does it mean? He means that you submit a proposal, that what you want to do, how will you do, within how much time will you do, what will be your survey area, what will be your research methodology, research design, and what will be the outcome, for whom this outcome will be there. Ultimately, your research supervisor is asking you to answer some of the questions which will be in the form of 5 W's and 1 H. So that is a research proposal. Now, theoretically, what is a research proposal? So it's a document written for the purpose of obtaining funds from grant sources or approval of institutional review board, or maybe the research proposal. Now, a research proposal, it should have a statement of intent. Intent means what you want to do. And a statement of intent, it is also, sometimes it may be in the form of a statement of problem. Because if you just go by the basics of research, research is like you are undertaking certain activity to identify, to diagnose, to find out some new knowledge, or to solve some problems, some existing problems. So whether you want to create some new knowledge or you want to solve some existing problems, ultimately there has to be certain problem. That problem might be applied or the problem might be theoretical. So what is that problem? That problem you need to identify. Okay. So that is a research proposal, it should have a statement of problem or a statement of intent. What you want to do, which problem are you willing to solve, that research problem. And it is said that better is the definition of problem, half is the problem solved. If you are able to identify the problem very pinpointedly, then it is said that half of the problem is solved if you are able to identify the problem. Identification of the problem is most important. I am giving you one example from the book of C.R. Kothari about the research problem. I am just quoting the same example. The example is, if you want to study that why productivity of Japan is better than the productivity of India. This is the problem you want to study. But do you think that this problem is very well articulated, or you think that this problem needs some modification? This problem is 100% perfect. It is conveying the meaning the way it should be, that everybody will understand in the same way in which you understand. Now let me tell you that suppose you have given the problem that why the productivity of Japan is better than India. Now the question is, which productivity are you talking about? Are you talking about agricultural productivity? And if agricultural productivity is your intent, then definitely the productivity of India in respect of agricultural output is better than Japan. Are you talking about the software productivity, computer software? Are you talking about industrial productivity? Are you talking about service productivity? Which productivity are you talking about? Now, this productivity, only productivity term is very vague term. Now, if you want to identify which the statement of the problem very pinpointedly, then you have to write which productivity are you talking about. And suppose after reasonable literature research, you identified that this we are talking about industrial productivity. Now let us reframe the problem in once again, that why industrial productivity of Japan is better than that of India. Okay, fine. Now industrial productivity of Japan is better than that of India. Definitely it is better than the previous one. But again, there are certain problems. Now which part problem? Industrial productivity is measured every year. Now which year are we talking about? Are we talking about year 1945 to 1973, 1973 to 99, and 99 to 2021? Because productivity of Japan was not uniform across the years. Because you know that in 1945 the Japan was badly affected because of the World War. And if we consider the time period of 1939 to 1945, definitely the productivity of Japan will not be as good as it is today. So we have to define time also. And suppose again after reasonable literature research, suppose we have identified the time period 1973. 1973 is the period when America was inviting lot of foreign direct investment in its country, and it was said that in 1973 whatever was sold in USA was bought by some Japanese firm. So suppose we have identified 1973 to 1983 or 1973 to 1993, 20 years time period. We will be studying only this 20 years time period, 1973 to 1993. And again, let us again reframe our statement of the problem. Why industrial productivity of Japan in between the period 1973 to 1993 was better than that of India? Now this problem is more precise, more concise, and more meaningful than the previous two versions. Again, can we reframe it again? Can we make it better than this one? Now it is industrial productivity. Again, in industrial productivity there are many subcomponents. We can identify industrial productivity in respect of which product? Electronic product, steel items, mining items. Which items? Definitely Japan is not having so many of the mineral product, so mining items will not be as good available in Japan as any other product. So if we just identify why the industrial productivity in respect of electronic goods in Japan is better than that of India during the period 1973 to 1993 or 1993 to 2021. Now this is a very precise problem. The problem is very well defined now. And now if you have to collect data now, then you know that you have to collect data between the 1993 to 2021 or 73 to 93. This data you have to collect data with respect to industrial productivity of electronic goods only. You need not to collect data regarding the mining items. You need not to collect data regarding agricultural items. Which data you need to collect? Then you have to compare it with India. You are not compare it with any other country or any other. So this problem is very well pinpointed. So the first thing in any problem, in any research proposal, is that a statement of the problem has to be very well drafted, very pinpointed. And if a problem is well identified, half of the problem is solved. Okay. Then this research proposal is academically prepared to complete the research. That is fine, we have already discussed. And then research proposal, it is your plan. It starts with the statement of the problem. Then the proposal, it should articulate what is your plan. And remember, if we are starting with some problem, then there has to be certain problem. The problem or the mistake that most people do while writing their research proposal is that in statement of the problem they fail to identify clearly exactly what is the problem. Like I was in one of the review board of one such proposal, and there the candidate have discussed a lot of things about his area, that what is this research about, what is that problem, what here everything. But finally one very senior person in our board, he has asked the candidate, okay, you have elaborated about your area, that you want to do your research in this particular area, you have discussed everything about area, but where is the problem? Whatever the points that you have mentioned in your slide is just some statements about your area, that this area is having this much productivity, this much population, this is literacy, this is industrialization rate, this is the policy of the government, but where is the problem? There has to be certain problem. So first thing is that there has to be certain problem, then only you can think of doing some meaningful research. Okay, fine. And once the problem is identified, then it is your plan. Plan is, it may be in terms of your methodology, it may be in terms of your timeline, it may be in terms of your budget, everything. So the plan has to be again well articulated. So it is your plan, and plan is always for future. You cannot do planning for past. So planning is always futuristic. So it is your plan, and it describes in detail your study. What study are you going to perform? So that detailed description is there, and decisions about your study are based on the quality of the proposal. Then whether your proposal will be accepted or rejected, like what will be the decision about your study, about your proposal, are based on the quality of your proposal. Better is the quality of your proposal, more are the chances that the decision will be in your favor, and you will be given the chance to pursue your study in your desired area. And but if the quality of your proposal is not well articulated, then there are chances that you may be denied opportunity to perform such study. And then approvals to proceed by the institutional review board, or some review boards, review committees are there who are to accord approval to your proposal. And what is the importance of project proposal? This cartoon is very beautifully explaining that thousands of excellent proposals, but not one uses our improved format. Okay, so there are thousands and thousands of proposals, but if the project proposal is not well drafted, well articulated, then it will be just dropped in some of the corners of the office or some in the storehouse. It will be just thrown out, and some dust will be piled up on those files, because ultimately we need some project proposal which can be given grant. So like here this cartoon itself is saying that it has to use our improved format. That proposal might be good, but if it is not as per the format of the funding agency, then it may be rejected. Fine, meaning thereby, like every funding agency, second lesson, that every funding agency, if you are writing a project proposal to UGC have certain format. If you are writing project proposal to ICSSR, they have certain format. If you are writing project proposal to DST, Department of Science and Technology, or Department of Atomic Energy, or Department of Northeastern Region, Development of Northeastern Region donor, then every funding agency have their own format of writing proposal. And you have to, not only that your project proposal has to be of certain quality, but it has to comply with those standards, those formats, then only it will be processed further. And remember, who will be doing this initial screening of your project? Initial screening of the project will not be done by the director of that particular funding agency. The initial screening of your project will be done by some clerk who will be just class 12 pass or just graduate somehow. And that class 12 clerk, he or she may not have the technical capabilities to evaluate your proposal. So your proposal may be theoretically very good, but initial screening of your project proposal will be done by a clerk who will be just a class 12 pass. He or she do not know anything about research methodology or anything about this the utility of your project. So that particular clerk will be screening, because thousands and thousands of proposals are coming. So that particular clerk will be screening the proposals only based on the format. Like the first screening will be like those project proposals which are complying with the formats, he will be screening in, and other than that, that will be screened out. And after that only your project proposal will reach to the committee who will be evaluating your project proposal. So maybe the director or some of the chairman or the members of the committee to evaluate, and then the merit of your project proposal will be discussed after that only. So if you are not complying with the format, there are the chances that your project proposal will be eliminated in the very first round without having without even giving a thorough reading of your project proposal. So this project proposal is a contract between you and your committee. So serves to protect the student demanding additional requirement. Like if later on the committee is asking to do something more, then you can always rely that because in the project proposal you have stated only this particular thing, then you are not supposed to do anything beyond that. So it serves the protect of the students also, and it protects the committee from the student from delivering a degree of poor quality. That before allowing a student to go further with the project and do a poor quality of work, it protects the committee also from the students from delivering a degree of poor quality. Then finally, who reads the proposal? And I already told you that the initial screening of the proposal is done by some clerk in the funding agency. But remember, he will not read it. So ultimately, who will read your project proposal? It will be your peers. If you are doing some research project, submitting some proposal, then ultimately your peers will be first who will be reading it. Nowadays, UGC have given a grant, that seed money grant, that every university can give a grant to their newly joined faculty members up to a certain amount, 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs, different disciplines amount is different, like from science technology amount is different, for humanities amount is different, and every newly joined assistant professor is given a certain grant, seed money, to start their project, to start their research. And this project proposal is evaluated by the peer group only, the members of the faculty from the same university, from the same department. They are normally evaluate and they read the proposal. Okay. Next, if you are writing a proposal for getting a PhD degree, then your supervisor will be the one who will be reading the proposal. Then your peers will also be reading your proposal. Then examiner, definitely, because once your proposal is approved, it will be sent to an external examiner for reviewing. Then examiner will also read the proposal, and the funding agency will also read the proposal. And remember, here everybody is just sitting with the sticks and axes just to cut you down. एक छोटे से mistake and you will be just thrown out. Okay? Because आप इनका चेहरे को देखिए, ये सब लोग जो है अपने अपने से गुस्सा है. कोई बीबी से लड़के आया है, किसी के गाइड ने उसको परेशान किया था इसीलिए वो अब अपने स्कॉलर को परेशान कर रहा है. कोई अपने हेड ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट से लड़के आया इसलिए अपने सारा गुस्सा अपने स्कॉलर पे निकाल रहा है. कोई अपने पड़ोसी से लड़के आया इसलिए सारा गुस्सा अपने स्कॉलर पे निकाल रहा है. कोई अपने बॉस से फ्रस्ट्रेटेड है इसलिए वो जो है इस प्रपोजल पे सारा गुस्सा निकाल रहा है. सो एवरीबॉडी, देयर पीयर, सुपरवाइजर, एग्जामिनर, फंडिंग एजेंसी, जस्ट रीड देयर माइंड. Everybody is frustrated and everybody is having their own level of anxiety, and with having their own level of anxiety they are reading that project proposal. And what is the importance of this anxiety in taking a professional decision? There is a movie on YouTube, Ek Ruka Hua Faisla. Just go and watch that movie. It is in 2 episodes, and you will find that when a few persons have been given tasked to give a verdict about a person, then how their personal life is influencing their professional life. So that is very important. So if your project proposal is very cumbersome, it is not very well articulated, not very well drafted, it is difficult to understand, people will just throw it out, you will reject it. So you have to convince everyone in the language in which they understand. And in which language they understand? They understand a simple language, convincing language, having some evidence, some data, some references, so that they can just based on their decision that it is not their decision, because we have already given the data and evidence and references, and then simply they have to sign it. And second thing, if the proposal that definitely has to be a very relevant proposal. If it is in the current days, if you are submitting any project proposal say related to COVID-19, the managerial aspect of COVID-19 or microbiological aspect of COVID-19 or biophysics aspect of COVID-19 or anything related to computer science to solve the problem of COVID-19, that will be welcomed and it will be accepted, and there are chances that it will be processed, because the peers, supervisors, examiners and funding agency, everybody will be looking after project proposals related to COVID-19. Or peers, supervisors, examiners, funding agency, everybody will be looking after some project proposal which will match the current trend, maybe Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Digital India. So if you are submitting something related to these things, very latest, the trendy things, there are the chances that your peers, supervisors, examiners and funding agency, they will okay your project proposal, because to be frank, they also do not know much about this area. Then what are the essential ingredients of a project proposal? Already I discussed the issue, what problem does your research address. So that issue has to be there. Then the design, how will the research achieve its objective? That research design has to be well articulated. And what will be the research contribute? What will be the benefit of this research? So these three things are the essential ingredients of a project proposal. The issue, that is the statement of the problem, the research methodology, and what will be the intended benefit. These are the three core things. Other than then also some things are there, like your budget will be there, the timeline will be there, some literature review will also be there, but broadly these are the three things which will be there in a research proposal. And a research proposal makes you outline steps in your proposed research. Outline the steps in your proposed research. What steps you will be following in your proposed research, that outlining. Then it provides an intellectual context. It provides yourself intellectual context, because when you will be writing a project proposal, then definitely you will be discussing with you will be discussing some intellectual thing, then you will be drawing some references, you will be doing literature review, what your earlier researchers have done. So all this intellectual work has to be done, and then only you can provide yourself with intellectual context. Then you have to be creative. While writing project proposal, you have to be very creative while presenting the facts. Suppose the same fact can be presented 2-3 ways. For example, same fact can be presented just describing it in text. The same fact can be presented with the help of some tables, some data. Same facts can be presented with the help of some diagrams, some flow chart. So if you are using some flow chart, some diagram, the chances are that it will be well understood by the members of the evaluation committee, and the chances of getting your project proposal accepted is on the higher side. Justify your research. Why are you willing to do your research? So that will be it will align with the statement of the problem only. This is the problem and why this research is important, why this problem needs to be studied. So that justification has to be there in the project proposal. And think through your experiments, that always, and anticipate potential problems. What will be the potential problem that you might have to face while carrying out this research proposal? So all these problems has to be anticipated earlier, and if you are able to anticipate the problems, potential problems, then you will also be able to identify the solution to those problems. It is always better to anticipate some problem and think of some probable solutions than to leave it to be solved as and when this problem will arise, and anticipate a realistic timetable, that because if you are writing a project for obtaining some grants to a funding agency, then funding agency will not give you grant for an infinite time period. There will always be some timetable, that this project will be given a grant for 1 year, 18 months, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year. So you have to anticipate a realistic timetable, that if your project proposal is for 3 years, so within 3 years how will you proceed? So the entire timeline has to be presented beautifully. Then how to start? Just I am discussing getting started. So any project, first thing is that all the project proposals have certain format. The funding agency will have certain format. So the project proposal has to adhere to the format of that funding agency or that research agency. Like if you are submitting a project proposal to university, so every university have certain template, some format. So you should adhere to that university format. If you are submitting it to some funding agency, that funding agency will have certain format. So you should adhere to the funding agency format. It is always better because of the things that to avoid getting your project proposal eliminated in the very first round. Because remember, I am again repeating that to a funding agency, the initial screening is not done by the persons who are expert in that field. They are just done by people who are at the lower level of bureaucracy. Some clerks, LDC or UDC people are ultimately doing this screening of the project initially, and they will be preparing a list of the projects to be submitted to the members of the expert committee. So once you have to, follow the that format. And how to start? So it starts with title of the project. The title should be reflective. It should reflect what you are going to do. So that title should be concise, it should be reflective, and it should be very precise and clear. You should state the background of the problem, then problem statement, and then aims and objective, rationale and context, methodology, ethical issues, plan of work, resources, what are the resources that will be requiring, timeline, outcomes, and references. This is just the format of a project proposal. Now, title, it should be just a mini abstract. It should be very clear, concise, and subject has to be the first. Okay, so that title, because the title is something that the members of the review committee, they will read it first, the title. And if the title is catchy, title is very attractive, and the title is able to convey the message that your project proposal is willing to do, then there are chances that it will catch the attention of the members of the committee. So the title has to be decided very carefully. Then the problem statement. Problem statement already discussed. So what statement? This is the problem, so what? So what? This is because of this, and ultimately you have to justify. It is the blueprint for your literature review, because once you are able to define the problem accurately, then only you can go ahead with the literature review. Then focus your committee at the beginning, keep them on track throughout your proposal. If the members of the committee are deviating, then your problem statement will keep them on track. They will stop them from deviating from the project proposal. Okay, this is the significance of problem statement. For example, suppose I have taken the example of, say, digital payment. Government is taking steps for Digital India initiative. Now suppose we have decided that we will be doing some study on digital payment. Now the question is simple. What is digital payment? Why this is important? Why people are using? Why people are not using this digital payment? Which category of people are using this digital payment? Is it equally popular in urban areas? Is it equally popular in rural areas? It is equally popular among male and female. Is it equally popular across the different age groups? Where is the problem? That problem has to be identified. Or if this digital payment is so good, then why it is not getting popularized and why everybody is not using this digital payment? Okay, if digital payment is so good, then why everybody is not using it? Why people are still asking for the cash payment? Why people are still carrying cash? So where is the problem? That problem has to be identified. And why this is important, why this study is important, everything has to be given in this problem statement only. Then once the problem statement is given, then we have to go for the literature review. Like who else have done the similar kind of study before you? You are not the first one who are venturing into this kind of area. You are not the Columbus who is exploring a new sea route, how to reach India. Most of the time, sometimes you might be Columbus if you are doing exploratory research. But my dear friends, at the initial level of your career, you should avoid from doing any kind of exploratory research. Exploratory research means the research which nobody have done before you, and you are the first one who have thought of this particular research, and you have written this proposal to obtain funding, a grant, or to get PhD degree. So there are chances that since you are the first one, no one have thought about this area, there will be little literature available on this area, and that's why the chances of getting your project accepted is very, very low. So initially, at the initial level of your career, you should avoid doing some exploratory research. So you should go for the descriptive study, qualitative, quantitative case study, whatever, it's up to you. But I'm not saying that you should not, but I'm just saying that you should avoid doing exploratory research. And if you are not doing exploratory, some literature review will be there. So this is just not a summary of literature. So how your project literature supports your hypothesis, extend your previous work, avoids previous mistakes, is unique to the previously followed path, and this is narrative of a good literature review. From known to unknown, from bigger to narrow. You should start with a bigger picture, then you should just keep on narrowing down, and ultimately you should end up with a very focused problem statement. That is the literature review, and you will be able to identify the gap very pinpointedly. Suppose if you want to do a literature review on Digital India Initiative or digital payment, so you should start about Indian economy, then what is the how much digital payments are there, which of the countries have adopted digital payment, what is the current status, everything. Then from the general come to the India. In India, when this digital payment was initiated, what are the regulatory framework, what are the digital payment options available, then what are the studies in respect of in the Indian context it is happening. Then again funnel down, narrow down. So this is a narrative of a good literature. So this part, the first part, the reader knows. The example, suppose here we have taken the example of say malaria. So from reader knows to reader does not know. You should start what the reader knows, then ultimately you should reach where the reader does not know, and here is the research gap. So this is the narrative of a good literature review. So initially at the beginning you should introduce the field, that is the focus will be broad. Suppose malaria, and if you were to do malaria, then epidemiology, you have to introduce the field, so you have to write about the malaria and epidemiology and something, then focus on certain aspects in the field of interest. Then you might be thinking about life cycle, current control, this is current focus, and end with gap analysis. What is the resistance level, and like why the mosquitoes are developing this resistance level. So this is just from introduce the field, broad focus, to focus on certain aspects in the field of interest, and then end with gap analysis. Just narrow down. This is the narrative of a good literature. Then purpose. Final point is your purpose. The purpose can be framed as a research question or hypothesis. Be concise in defining the purpose. One sentence, solution to your problem. Try to just define the problem, define the purpose as precisely as possible. Then support the hypothesis. Whatever the hypothesis that you are framing, then ultimately your literature review, it should have something to support the hypothesis, some reference, some evidence, some data to support your hypothesis. Make a list of references, then internet referencing, narrow down your research search terms, prior reviewed articles, current literature, review versus primary literature. Avoid plagiarism. Again, if the proposal may have certain plagiarism, then also there are chances that it will be rejected in the very first round, because again, just like initial screening whether the project proposal is complying with the format as prescribed by the funding agency or the research institution, it is done by some lower level people, then this plagiarism is also very mechanical way. There are certain softwares, like most of the universities are using this Urkund software, then Turnitin is there, iThenticate software is there, some other softwares might be there, some freewares are also there. So whenever these project proposals are received, then the first thing is done after once the screening with respect to the format is over, then the plagiarism is being tested. And if the plagiarism is more than an accepted limit, there are certain accepted limit, like some of the funding agencies, they will write, like if you are submitting some paper to some good journals, they used to write that to what extent plagiarism is permissible, maybe 20%, 30%, 25%, 15%. Plagiarism from a single source should not be more than 5%. Plagiarism from a single source should not be more than 3%. So this plagiarism policy is very well articulated in the journal. Similarly, for the funding agency also, this plagiarism policy is there, like to what extent they will be accepting plagiarism. And if the plagiarism is more than certain standard that prescribed, then summarily it will be rejected. It may also so happen that there are certain things that you cannot avoid this plagiarism. Like say some technical definitions are there, some charts are there, some facts are there that has to be presented the way it is. Then and if a document containing all these things are put for plagiarism test, there are chances that your plagiarism will be more than a certain standard limit. So how to avoid plagiarism? So you should do something to avoid plagiarism. One thing is that you should put some of the less important items in the appendix if it is highly plagiarized, because the items which are placed in appendix, they are not part of the main document, and if they are not the part of the main document, they are not subject to as rigorous plagiarism test as it is for the part which is there in the main document. So this is one way, that put some unimportant data, some unimportant facts in appendix. Some text, if it is not avoided, put them in boxes, because boxes also, tables and boxes, they are also not subject to this plagiarism test very rigorously. Okay, then paraphrase it. If it is possible to paraphrase, then paraphrase it. Nowadays some online paraphrasers are also available, so you can just copy your paragraph, put them in online paraphrasers, and it will paraphrase the entire, but you have to take precaution while paraphrasing it. Okay, so a reference immediately after mentioning, not end of the paragraph. Yeah, if you are referring the sentence, like from where you are obtaining this particular line, so that will also avoid plagiarism, because you are stating that this is not your own work, you have obtained it from the work of some and some, and for that you are giving the references. And always identify the source, that is also one way of avoiding plagiarism. And summarize useful points. Summarize means when you are summarizing, then definitely you are paraphrasing it and you are reducing it to a minimum level, and that's why, and this is how you are avoiding plagiarism. Don't cut and paste simply. Then once again, this purpose, I think we have discussed, is aims and objective is important. The purpose, the aims and objective of this research is, the purpose is like objective, like if you are able to identify the problem, define the problem, then the objective has to be defined. many students, they ask me, like, what is the difference between problem statement and objective? Objective is just a problem statement. I am just giving one example from the movie Diwar from Amitabh Bachchan. Vijay and Ravi, both of them have faced the same problem. The statement of the problem are same. Both of them have faced the same problem with respect to their father, with respect to their mother, with respect to poverty, with respect to being deprived of the basic minimum facilities. Vijay and Ravi, these are the two characters. Okay, so the problem is that they are deprived of their basic minimum facilities, deprived of education, they are poor, their father was having problem, mother is having problem, everything is problem. That is the objective. But ultimately, when they grown up in life, what becomes their objective? One became a don and one became police officer. One person have taken the path of being a police officer, and his objective was to remove crime, eliminate crime from the society, and another become don, and his objective was to obtain wealth so that he can live a very comfortable life. आज मेरे पास घर है, गाड़ी है, बंगला, प्रॉपर्टी, बैंक बैलेंस है, तेरे पास क्या है? मेरे पास माँ है. This is actually just highlighting the objective and research statement of the problem. The problem was same for both, not for both, for the three. Two kids and one mother have faced the same problem, but ultimately all of them were having three different objectives. So the purpose of this research is to aim, that short but general statement of intent, an objective, very specific statement that define the practical steps you will take to achieve your aim, and then methodology. This section used to judge the validity of the results and conclusions. This section of your proposal has multiple parts: instrumentation, infrastructure, study groups, ethics, access to sample, data analysis. All these things has to be given in this methodology section. Justify your method. Why are you using this particular methodology? Why your methodology is better than the earlier used methodology? From here you will be obtaining the data. How will you be analyzing the data? What will be your sample size? How will you be drawing samples? Do you have the access to that data source? Do you have the access to the sample? Do you have the list of population? What will be your universe of the study? All these questions has to be defined very clearly, very pinpointedly in the methodology section. And so you understand the principles and prove feasibility of your study. Okay, so feasibility of the study, that this study is feasible with this given methodology, with the given budget, within the given timeline. This methodology, this study is feasible, that you have to justify in this particular section, methodology. Then give a timeline. I've already stated that a funding agency or your PhD degree or research degree, MPhil, they require certain timeline, that you have to comply with certain timeline, that within 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year. So that timeline has to be given. So it helps you keep your project in the correct order and avoids dead time. And when building your timeline, consult with others who have done similar studies. But this is self-explanatory. Budget gives you an appreciation of research cost. Your research cost, it will be divided into further sections and subsections, subheadings, so that entire discussion and detailed presentation is given in the budget. Prevents you from overspending. If budget is there, then definitely you will be trying to comply with that budget, and then if you are complying with that budget, you are trying to meet the specifications in the budget, then definitely you will not be overspending. And provides a specific explanation for need for a specific technology. Why you need a particular technology? Suppose you have given in your budget that you require one tablet, you require one software, you require one particular machine, then why you require that specific technology? That explanation has to be given. Okay, like there are some softwares which collects real-time data, like you are asking to the respondents, and it is just taking the respondents responses, and it used to process them on a real-time basis. So that is a software, it has certain cost. So if you are using that software, then you have to give an explanation why you need that, what will be the benefit of that particular software or any other software. Suppose if you want to procure SPSS, as this workshop is for SPSS, then why you need SPSS, how SPSS is better than MS Excel or Systet or any other software available. Okay, so that explanation has to be given. Need for other financial requests, that is if you are going to the conference, instrumentation staff, you stipend of your research assistant, then what is that justification? That justification, do you really need this kit? Suppose if you have given this kit, some instrument, something, then that justification. So because see, the committee members, they are sitting just to cut anything that is not explained. If they are not able to explain, understand anything, they will simply just deduct it, they will strike it out. So for everything, for every budget, every head, there has to be a detailed explanation, or if not detailed, a brief explanation, understandable explanation has to be given in order to get it granted. That specific explanation has to be there. Then what will be the outcome? That outcome has to be illustrated, explained. So what do you expect the results to be? It will be in the form of some measurable outcome, like a PhD degree. It may be in the form of a patent, it may be in the form of a paper, it may be in the form of a conference paper, journal paper, book chapter. So these are the measurable outcomes. Some qualitative outcomes like contribute understanding subject, new technology, new application. So these are the qualitative outcomes. So this measurable and qualitative and quantitative, all these outcomes has to be explained in the project proposal beautifully. Then it will always be better, easy for the members of the committee to throw this, clear that project proposal. Just revise your project proposal, edit it, backup proposal every day, always print on paper and edit. Use standard font, like Times New Roman is the standard font. Sometimes some people are using Arial, some people are using Bookman old style. So whatever it is, so there's sometimes the font size are also prescribed by the funding agency. So use that standard font. Don't use any font which will be difficult to read once the printout is taken. And the number your pages. Like here in this slide number is 29. Similarly, your page proposals of your like project proposal, it should also have numbering. Otherwise, what will happen? The members of the committee, when they will have to discuss among themselves, then what will they say? Go to that page number where the candidate has reached an objective of the study, and then he has to again screen out the entire project proposal to find out where the candidate have written objective of the study. But if the page number is written like page number 29, go to page number 29, first paragraph. So always you should number your pages, it is better. Then read out loud. Once you have drafted your proposal, read out loud, record it, listen yourself. Is it conspicuous to your eyes and ears? If it is, then okay. If you yourself is finding some irritation is there, you are not able to understand once you are listening your own voice, then definitely your members of the committee, they will also not understand it. So revise it, edit it. And there are certain common pitfalls to avoid. And what is that? Forget to include table of content. Never do that. Always include a table of content. Not connecting to the proposed research to the literature review. Always do that. Not enough detail about the methods. Methodology should be detailed. Jargon should be avoided. Relying slowly on your supervisor. Supervisor ने आज कुछ कमेंट लिख के भेजा, आप 4 महीने बाद उसको रिप्लाई कर रहे हो, वो भी है. Relying slowly on your supervisor, because whatever your supervisor is saying, you should rely on that. Even sometimes, I am just telling from my own experience, sometimes from your supervisor or the members of the committee, they are also not very much updated about the latest tools and technology. Or suppose you have written something in your research methodology which as per you is correct, but for the members of the committee, they may not be aware about all those things. So always use the experience of your supervisor, or if it is like if it is a project proposal for funding, your supervisor may not be there, but always seek the opinion of some senior people and rely on their opinion. I have written one project proposal, and there the sampling design I had written that sample will be collected at 5% level of significance at 5% confidence interval, 5% level of significance. Okay, now 5%, those who are familiar with the statistics, they know that at 5% level of significance for a particular population, we can calculate the sample size. And my study was about the central government employees in a particular district in Assam. So the members of the expert committee, they have asked, why are you calculating only 5%? 5% तो बहुत कम होगा. कितने सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय होंगे? अगर हम लोग यूनिवर्सिटी देखें, आसाम यूनिवर्सिटी है, तेजपुर यूनिवर्सिटी है, और कुछ ऐसे सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, तो देयर विल बी नॉट मोर देन 1000 सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयज इन आसाम. और उसमें से आप 5% ले रहे हो तो आप 50 लोगों को लेंगे. सो आई सेड, मैडम, दिस इज नॉट अबाउट 5% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन, इट इज एट 5% लेवल ऑफ सिग्निफिकेंस. तो उसमें जो चेयरमैन थे ICSSR के, बोलते हैं, नो नो, यू जस्ट डू इट, यू मेंशन इट 20%. So I was trying to convince him this is 5% level of significance, not the 5% of the whole population. But he was adamant, if you can make it 20%, we will grant that project. And ultimately मरता सो क्या न करता, मैंने ठीक है चलो, I have written 20%, and finally I got the grant. But I know that this is wrong. But that's why here comes the role and experience and wisdom of your supervisor or the senior person. Okay, improving your odds. So know that the evaluation criteria will be, and check that you meet these criteria. It starts with an outline. Read approved proposal. The proposal जो already approved हो चुके, just read them. Once finished, ask others to proofread. Okay, use diagrams to illustrate models, and make sure your mentor approves it before you submit. So these are the things. You just try to do it, so that your chance of getting your project is more like improved than the earlier probability. And how the proposal will be evaluated, the aim, objective are likely to be achievable. Whatever you have written, that your aims and objective, they has to be achievable. Rationale for the project study, proposed study is reasonable. Okay, आपने ऐसा कुछ नहीं दिया कि I will just do something which is not achievable, which is not reasonable. It has to be reasonable. And the scientific design is described and adequately justified. So this is how in detail about the project proposal. And finally you have to make your project proposal present in form, sometimes, not always, sometimes you have to present in front of the members of the evaluation board, evaluation committee. And if you are meeting all these criteria, the chances that your project will be accepted will always be on the higher side. So this is all from my side. Thank you.